I suppose we should say something, really, shouldn't we?
Rather than just sit here and smile.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another thrilling episode of the Digital Download. And as per last week, we're going to be talking today about another one of the pillars of being successful on social. And today's pillar we're talking about is network, how to grow a network, and how to make use of that network.
And the importance of having a network.
Yeah, it's interesting actually because I was talking to a new client earlier this week, and this person had quite a small network, and they didn't articulate why it was a small network. But it makes me think about all the times that I've had conversations with people where they say, "Well, I only want to connect to people that I know." And so what's your answer when you're presented with that, Tim? When somebody says to you, "Oh, I've only got 600 connections, but I know every one of those people."
What do I say? Well, LinkedIn is an online networking platform. The whole point of it is to go and meet new people. So, so you should be, if you're on LinkedIn and want to get the best from it, you need to be connecting to new people and having conversations with them, just as if you would do if you walked into a room of people that you didn't know. So in effect, it's a digital version of every day you walk into a room and there's people that you don't know. And what would you do? Would you just stand there on the side looking at your shoes?
Yeah, and it is strange, isn't it? Because I think that a lot of people they kind of don't. They see LinkedIn and probably all social networks as a follow up rather than a precursor to actually meeting somebody face to face. So, I've met you at some event and it's a great way of us keeping in touch, which of course it is. But I think that it seems like a terribly missed opportunity, doesn't it? If you don't think, actually, I might be meeting you at this event. Why don't I connect to you ahead of the event? And then maybe when I meet you at the event, there will be less kind of that initial having a chat and getting to know you.
Yeah, it was Brian Fanzo that said, wasn't it, that social media. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
Was all about changing what would have been a handshake into a hug.
Yeah.
And that's about. And if you think about, when we go onto a call, the first thing that we do is that we say, I'm Tim Hughes, I've been doing this, and and we what we do is that we set out our stall of credentials. And actually, you don't need to do that on calls, because you should have done that on social media ahead. So people should have looked you up. If you go to a meeting, you will look somebody up.
Yeah.
Most probably you will look somebody up. So you've actually got an opportunity. You've got and we talked about this last week about, you don't get a second chance at making a first impression. So your LinkedIn profile is all about how you can make that first impression. But that means it accelerates the time that you have with somebody, because they actually already know you.
Yeah. I mean, it seems simple, doesn't it? So why doesn't everybody do this? Because it is blindingly obvious, and I know that.
Is it blindingly obvious because of the number of people that I know that say, I only connect with people I know or who I have met, and I think it's, part of it is a hangover, isn't it, from other social networks where, on Facebook generally you just connect with people that you know.
Yeah.
Though know is, it used to be friends, now it's kind of acquaintances, and you may even be connected to people you don't know, because they're actually, I'm connected to my mum's boyfriend's daughter, who I don't know, but it's my mum's boyfriend's daughter, and she and I both have a responsibility to basically look after the pair, because they're in their 80s. And I think that's because of that. But on LinkedIn is a network, and what we should be doing is connecting to people. The other thing I think is that what happens with LinkedIn is that we we've all, the second worst thing in the world is the connect and pitch. The worst thing in the world is the 20-second ad on YouTube that you're trying to get rid of because you want to watch the Eagles. And what happens is you're trying to get rid of the ad. But you all know that when we connect to people on LinkedIn, usually what happens is that there's a pitch, and so it's because it's so cringeworthy, and it's a fight or flight. It causes a flight or fight reaction within us. And nobody's taught us what to do. Cultural norms are something that we learn. When going back before the mobile telephone, when there was a telephone, but I was taught as a child, to answer the phone and say 840-283, and to know the number, and then say, and then is your mum there? Oh, and I was taught how to do that, whereas no one actually teaches you how to actually connect with people and have conversations. Even LinkedIn will tell you to send spammy emails.
Yeah.
So we're in that situation where that ability to connect to people and go up to them as you would in an analog and shake their hand and say, "Hi, Adam, how you doing? Have you travelled far? Wasn't the traffic terrible? Isn't the weather lovely?" We just don't know how to do those things on digital.
Yeah, I suspect you're right. Well, yeah, I guess that, and I was talking to somebody earlier this week about this, and said, the thing that I find really interesting is that salespeople have a real gift for building rapport and chatting to people. It's what they do. It's how they build relationships, and they know inherently what to do when they meet people face to face. They know how to kind of cozy up to people and get people to like them. And yet, when they port that face to face behavior into the digital world, it's like all of that stuff they know to be true goes out of the window, because there's this, I don't know, secret rule book, isn't there? That that kind of they think is the correct behavior. So I shouldn't talk about myself on LinkedIn because it's a professional network, for example. Why not? Who says?
Why? It's a social network.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why wouldn't you talk about yourself? And not in a jazz hands, hey, look at me, I'm amazing. But hey, aren't we having some great weather at the moment, or whatever it is. But the thing is that you know as well as I do. One of the things that we spend our day doing, before we go live, I have like 5 minutes and I go through and I clear out my inbox of all the people that say, "Hey, I've got these people that can basically develop shit for you at $8 an hour. Do you want some?" It's like, go away.
Mm.
And you're stealing time from me because of the fact that I'm having to spend 5 minutes of my time clearing my inbox to get rid of you and report you to LinkedIn for harassment. Stop doing it. And the thing is though, how many times have we told people not to connect and pitch, not to pitch on social, but people are still doing it and thinking that's what they should be doing. So somebody is telling them to do this.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe it's just this kind of this eagerness, So it is a hi, Michelle, lovely to see you. It is an environment where you need to take your full self to market. Thanks, Daniel. It is an environment where you can get to know people, but you're also it's work. So I need to take every opportunity to pitch. That's how salespeople work. Let me give you a run through of my product. Let me give you a product demo. Let me talk about how I can help you. And I mean, I always do liken this to dating. Hello, nice to meet you. Can we get married, please? Well, you may get a proposal at some point, but probably
at least buy me a drink.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's probably a few steps in between hello, nice to meet you, and will you marry me? And I think that salespeople forget that, don't they? And I think that maybe if they know what they're saying is true, they assume that the other person will believe it to be true. But
But
we all know that.
but I think the thing is what you said at the beginning, which is that when I've ever asked anybody about this, they've always said yes, but salespeople have got to sell and marketers have got to market.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we say that, okay, and then it's okay. So it's okay for you to basically, there's to expect there to be no trust or no relationship in place for somebody to buy. Because all that does is it creates a fight or flight reaction. We have a DNA reaction to that, which is fight or flight.
Yeah.
And we all have it. We know what's going to happen. So it's not. Yes, marketers have to market and salespeople have to sell, but not doing it in a crass, bad way. We shouldn't be supporting bad and crass sales and marketing. What we should be doing is recognizing that sales come through trust and sales come through relationship. And what we should be doing is building those on social, because social basically, there's 1.2 billion people on LinkedIn, all available for us to go and have a conversation with. And what we do is we spoil it by basically and destroy it by basically going up and pitching to people.
Yeah. Yeah. So an interesting thing. How big should my network be?
Good question. It's a good question. Well, my answer, most people I've seen have got networks of probably about 1,500 people.
Mm-hmm.
The average person on LinkedIn is 930. So if you're less than that, you're less than average. But I've been seeing people who are like, oh yeah, it's a really great SDR, and it's got 450 connections. Like, you're not a great SDR. You don't know what you're talking about. You're very good at telling people how great you are, but you're not. You're just not developing business.
Yeah.
But I've seen SDRs. I had an SDR on my podcast who'd got, as an SDR, got 10,000 connections.
Nice.
And I said, why have you got 10,000 connections? Because he said, that's my job. Going out and talking to people and that's what my job is. Generally we would see people with 2, 3, 4, 5,000 as having a fairly okay network.
Yeah.
And what we would teach and coach our clients, you need to be at that sort of level of the 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people.
So basically you want, how big should your network be? As big as possible. Yeah, good. That's excellent, Michelle. It is good. I think one of the things that's really interesting about network is, first of all, there is a big difference between, and I'll use you as an example, Michelle, big difference between 9,000 connections and 9,000 people in your network. Now, I've known you for years, Michelle, and you're very good at networking, very good at building relationships with people, very good at winning people's trust and demonstrating your expertise in your field. And I think that just simply connecting to somebody and then never doing anything, never developing that relationship, means that they are simply a connection. And the reality is that, this is really important. You've got 9,000 connections. You probably don't know really who 8,000 of them are. That doesn't matter. What matters is that all of the 9,000 know who you are. And we all need to have kind of like a method, a mechanism for ensuring that those people understand us and watch us and look at us. And I think that what's really important is that people that simply fire out loads of connection requests without a message on them, irrespective of what LinkedIn says, fire out connection requests, people who are trying to collect connections or simply grow a network, simply grow a follower base, those people will maybe accept your connection request. But the key thing is here that I need to notice you. So you should always send a connection request with a message that encourages me to look at your profile. Hi, Tim. I found you on LinkedIn. Your profile looks really great. I'm always looking to add good people to my network. Is it okay if we connect? Now, hopefully, Tim will read that and he'll think, who is this guy? And he'll look at my profile.
Or girl.
Or girl. and in this case, Guy, I hope, and he'll look at my profile, and then he'll read it, and he'll think that's different, and that's the key thing. If you say I'm an expert at whatever, they're just words. Everybody claims to be.
Everybody says that they're an expert.
Yeah, because nobody ever says
I'm not an expert.
Yeah, no one ever says I'm an unmotivated, lazy, inexperienced failure. Everyone says I'm an ultra high performing, super motivated, self-starting thought leader. So those words mean nothing. But what you can do is you can talk about what it is that you love, what it is that you do. I obviously play the guitar, so I talk quite a lot about music. Tim, you travel a lot. You talk a lot about travel, and those kind of things give people non-businessy things that they can latch onto. And if somebody recognizes me as the bloke that plays the guitar, or you as the bloke who travels, that's infinitely better than them not recognizing us. And that's the key thing. You have to be known for something, because no one's going to really care whether you're known for injection molding specialist or whatever. So you need to be known for something that people can hang a label on.
Because I think that there's a process, isn't there? There's people, there's companies that will basically, you can pay them to connect to people, and they'll say, we'll connect, grow your network of 1,000, 2,000. It's pretty much worthless, because a connection, the person actually doesn't know who you are, or doesn't recognize you. The second step is to build that network, isn't it? Which is to actually have people see who you are. And we talked about last week about people will come and check you out. So you need to have and invested in building a LinkedIn profile that people go, oh, that's interesting. Not, I'm the best salesperson in the world, because we'll just run away from that person unless you want everybody to run away from you. Carry on. But what we're looking for is when to check someone. Yeah, you clearly you write a lot about the industry you're in, so you'll clearly understand the industry or the clients in your area. But I think the difficult thing, isn't it, is that whenever we talk about network, is that, okay, so how do I connect to people? Because the first thing, the thing that the recipient is expecting is that you're going to pitch. And the first thing that you do when you connect to somebody, you just can't avoid pitching.
Yeah.
So we're in this situation where people go, I don't know how to connect to people because I don't know how to have a conversation on digital. And we all, we've all been sent those connection requests, and we go, I know what's going to happen. And then I get loads of people connecting to me, and it says in their summary title, I help CEOs with their health and fitness. I mean, I know what's going to happen. So I always, I always ignore it, which is why LinkedIn experts who say that you need to put what you do in your summary title is just utter bunk.
Yeah.
Now, so what is it that we need to do? How do we connect to people?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. The expectation now is that I'm going to send you a connection request. You're going to accept it, and then I'm going to immediately follow it up with a list of my products and services. So I personally always tell somebody that they look interesting. You've got a great profile. And I said my final line is, I promise I'm not going to try and sell you anything. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not going to let somebody buy from me if they find what I do interesting or attractive. But I promise I'm not going to try and sell you anything, to hopefully allay any fears that they have that I'm going to pounce on them like some sort of leopard and tear them to pieces. But I think that the one of the interesting things, and sales and your personal brand and how you behave on social is an incredibly complicated web of different things interacting with other different things. We know from research that about 5% of people are in market at any one time, which means that 95% of people aren't. So connecting to someone and then telling them what you do and telling them your list of products and services and giving them your price list is probably going to be counterproductive rather than productive, because you've only got 1 in 20 chance of them being in a position where they're going to actually absorb that and find that interesting. But if I've connected to you, I have built a digital bridge between myself and you. So what I need to make sure that you do is that you're looking in my direction down that bridge. So connecting to you means that you might see my content show up in your newsfeed, which is great. But what I need to do is I need to program you to notice my content, because all of us, we're connected to 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 people, and we log into LinkedIn and we start to scroll through, and we scroll through and scroll through, and it's all noise for the most part. It's people telling you that they've won an award for selling more stuff.
They've just had a fantastic sales kickoff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, surely, were you going to come and say it was the worst ever?
No, possibly not. We've got a new product, or we've got a new connector from our product to this company's platform. Stuff which is really dull. So you're scrolling through and you're avoiding this stuff, and then all of a sudden you see something interesting. Either it's an interesting piece of content, which will normally be an interesting image that you've seen, or an interesting graph that's caught your eye, or it's from somebody that you know. So you're scrolling through and you go, oh, here's Tim. Oh, he always shares something interesting or valuable. I'll read that. So they stop and they read your piece of content. So you get them into your network, and there's a chance they'll read it, but they have to know who you are. And there are simple things that we can do. I mean, one of the ones that I like best is that I send you a connection request. You accept my connection request. My connection request is very friendly. Hi, you look absolutely fantastic. It'd be really great if I could connect to you. I promise I'm not going to try and sell you anything. You accept it. And then when you accept it, I send you a note that says, thanks for connecting. Have a good weekend. It's Friday. Hey. And nothing else. And I think that's really important, because A, most people don't do it. And if most people don't do it, it makes me look a little bit better than everybody else. And B, I liken it to walking into a big shopping mall. There's two sets of doors as you go in. One of them, the first one, I walk through it and I hold it open for you, and you don't say thank you. So the second one, I'm just going to let it go in your face, because you've demonstrated that you're rude. So I've sent you a connection request. You've accepted. So I should send you a note that says, thanks for accepting. And then I'm hoping that will mean that if you haven't looked at me when I've sent you a really nice connection request, you'll look at me at that point and go, oh, that's very nice. Who is he? And once you've looked at me and you've seen guitars and food and cars and whatever else it is that I'm happen to be posting about at that moment, you'll think, oh, he's an interesting guy. He's the guy that went to the motor racing or whatever it is. And I'm hoping that some of these things that I share are fairly universal. Everybody, well, not everyone, most people have an interest in travel, or an interest in food, or an interest in music, or an interest in film, or an interest in literature, or an interest in cars, or an interest in sports, or an interest in whatever. And if you share some of this stuff, you're hoping that this person that you want to talk to, they don't mention the fact that they're a rugby fan, but they see that you've been at the rugby and they think, oh, that person's just like me. And what's really nice about this is that when you meet the person, you feel that there's some, and I'm dubious about using the word synergy, but you feel that there's some connection.
Don't use the word synergy.
Okay, it's a banned word, is it?
It's a banned word. Yeah, I need to get a list.
But there's some kind of connection between the two of us. A connection which is not about me pitching to you or you pitching to me, but a connection about, here's a passion that we share in this particular topic, and it's something that we can talk about safely and get to know each other.
The safely bit I'll come back to, but I just wanted to give an example, because when I do my podcast, there's loads of people that come on and they're never given any examples. So you and I went to I think it was the Salesforce Cloud event. And we were grumbling to each other that we couldn't get a coffee or something like that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this person just walks towards us. And I thought, oh, no, he's going to try and sell to us. And he said, you're Tim and Adam, aren't you? Yes. I thought he was going to throw us out. He was quite tall. And he said, and he said to you, turned to you and he said, I loved your post yesterday.
Yeah.
I was about, he said, it's so true what you, and it was like, and I'm like looking to see, I don't know who he is.
And I didn't know who he was either.
Yeah. And this is the thing. You may not know who these people are. You don't know who. Generally, if people aren't liking and commenting on your content, then you won't know who they are. And this is so important, because you should be going to meetings where people are actually saying to you, "I read your post the other day, and it really resonated with me." And just think, if we could start meetings where we're not going, well, I'm Tim Hughes and I can't tell anyone, because they've actually done that, and we're starting a meeting saying, read your post and it really resonated with me. That's a different meeting.
Absolutely.
And so that was just an example where out of nowhere, a person came up and said, "Great post, Alan."
Yeah.
Sorry. And so So the other thing is about being a threat or not a threat.
Safe.
Safe was the word you said.
Yeah.
And one of the things you have to understand is that as a salesperson selling anything, and I know you love selling what you sell because it pays your mortgage and it puts food on the table, but do you know, I don't give a shit, and nobody else does, because we're all bothered about selling our own stuff. Somebody shared a very young Sam Altman on stage this week, basically, and I just quoted him. And he said, we've got busy lives. I don't have time to remember what you do or what you sell, but I remember you. And whenever as soon as the moment that we move to selling, we're moving into a threatening situation, and we have this inbuilt thing as humans that we understand that whenever we see anything threatening, we go into fight or flight. It comes from the Serengeti. We're spending all our day on the Serengeti trying to work out how to stop ourselves being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, and somebody basically starts walking across the horizon. Is that a sword they've got? Are they in our tribe or whatever? And we know before they come to us whether we like them or not, and we know whether we're going to basically get our sword out and go, this person is a threat or not. And as soon as you move into sales mode, you go into threat, and we all get our swords out.
Yeah. So developing a network, and I was chatting to someone about this just this week, and they had quite a small network, and I said to them, because they felt that they didn't have any real equity in their network because it was quite small. So I said to them, the reality is, though, and this was a person that's quite a lot younger than us. You and I, Tim, we've been in business for 40 years nearly. Either working for ourselves or working for someone else. So for 40 years, we've developed a network where we've connected to people either face to face or on digital. We've connected to people, and we've got a large network of people around us. But for most people, most of those connections are now in the wrong place. I used to work in this industry, and I now work in this industry.
They're ex-colleagues or they're recruitment consultants.
Yeah, or people you went to university with.
They're not people that are going to buy from you.
Probably not, no. And one of the things that's interesting is that when you take a more focused and less random approach to this, you can go, okay, so you can send 150 connection requests a week. If you've got a nice profile, 2/3 of those people will accept. So you can add 100 connections a week. And if now you search for the people that you would consider to be your ideal customer profile, and you add 100 a week, that means by this time next year, you'll have 5,000 more of those people in your network. So whether you've got 10,000 connections, most of whom are in the wrong place, or you've got 500 connections, most of whom are in the wrong place, most of the connections you've already got are not going to put their hand in their pocket and buy. That's not to say they don't have value, because lots of those people might introduce you. They might have a spouse that is somebody that you would like to have a conversation with. But let's assume that none of that happens. We're just talking about targeting people. If everybody that you connect to from now on is somebody that you might want to have a commercial conversation with, you're absolutely in control of where your network is pointing. And the beauty of that is that every single person you add, if they are your ideal customer profile, every single person that you add to your network will at some point be an ideal customer for you. They're not today because they're under contract to another provider, or they're having a reorganization, or they don't have budget for what it is that you're selling. But so they're one of the 95% that are not in market for your product today. But they might be next week or next month or next year or in 5 years. And the beauty of this is that if you keep doing that week after week after week, you are loading the deck in your favor. every single person that is within your target market and your ideal customer that you add to your network is another prospective buyer. And the beauty of this is that if you post something fairly regularly on social, and that stimulates one person a month sending you a message saying, I'm really glad you posted earlier today because I would like to buy your product. Can we have a conversation about that? If you increase the people that are within your target market by a factor of 10, that becomes 10 people a month. Or by 100, it becomes 100 people a month. And I think that this is something which is often overlooked, isn't it? Because people think, I've got a small network, therefore I can't have any value, or there isn't any value in it, or I never get any inbound from anybody. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating. You know, if you've got a good profile, people will tell you you've got a good profile. If you connect to people and you look interesting, when you connect to people, people will say on occasion, not every time, but they'll say on occasion, oh, look at your profile, it's really interesting, some of the stuff you're doing. When you ask those people to have a conversation at some point, Tim, we've been connected for 6 months now. I meant to ask you this when we first connected. Is it all right if we have a call? I'd love to hear what it is that you do. If you send that out to people, and these people have already seen that you haven't pounced on them the moment you've connected, 10% of them will say, yes, they'll take a call with you. So if you've added 1,000 people and 10% of them say yes, that's 100 calls. Most salespeople would kill for 100 calls with that ideal customer profile. But I think the key thing is that you have to just be mindful of this. You have to be deliberate about what it is that you're trying to do. Because if you just go on, connect to a few people, post a bit of stuff, drop a few likes, and expect something to happen, it's like picking up the phone, randomly calling a number and saying, hi, are you interested in a new CRM? Because invariably the answer is going to be no.
Andrew makes a really good point. A couple of things on that, which is just because you connect with someone, it doesn't mean you are looking to buy anything. Likewise, you should not try and sell anything right off the bat. Manners matter, and I totally agree with Andrew. And the thing is to connect. When we always talk about connecting people who we would like to influence, and we say that deliberately. It's connecting to people that you would like to sell to, but it may be, there's a lot of snobbery on LinkedIn about connecting. So you may want to connect to the CIO of Gatwick Airport, but he or she may not want to connect with you because of they don't know you and they may not think that you're worthy to connect with. So it may be that you need to connect to somebody else within that Gatwick Airport to enable you to get to the CIO of Gatwick Airport. It may be that you're going to connect to KPMG or PwC or someone like that who actually influence that, who may be the auditors. So it's not just necessarily people that you want to sell to. Question I wanted you to ask though, Adam, that connecting with those people, that's going to take ages, isn't
it? Yeah. Getting fit is going to take ages. Making £1 million is going to take ages. All of these things are going to take ages. But what you know is that if it's going to take 5 years for you to develop a huge network which gives you a constant stream of leads, you wish you'd done it 5 years ago, but you didn't.
So just so you know, so Adam isn't a salesman. Just so you know, we teach and coach people to send 200 connection requests a week in an hour as part of our training and coaching. So building that network should only take you an hour's work. And our benchmark shows that you send 200 connection requests in a week, 60 to 80% of people will accept. Of those 60 to 80%, 10% will accept a call, and 34% of those will agree a next action. That is the biggest and best ability of anywhere in the world, if not the universe, for generating leads. Nobody else has ever said that they could do better than that.
Well, I love the fact that our client in Singapore messaged saying, I'm going to have to slow down my LinkedIn activity because I've got too many meetings, which I think is fascinating.
So Robert basically says, in my mind, promise I'm not going to sell anything means exactly opposite. Not sure it's needed. I would agree with you, Robert. I don't use it, but it's important that when you send a connection request, it's in your words and the way that you want to work, and the way that you see the world. Adam likes adding to that, and Adam has got has had success from it. Therefore, I certainly don't disagree with it. I just wouldn't use it myself.
Yeah, and I think that's the really important thing that you hit the nail on the head there, Tim. This is about not using a, in quotes, best practice script. This is about learning to develop your own voice. And it's like when people say, well, I'll get a copywriting agency, AI, bot, whatever, to write this content for me. That's the worst thing you can possibly do. And the reason it is not because they do a bad job of doing this stuff, because sometimes they can do a really good job of doing this stuff, but it isn't you. It's like it's your wedding anniversary. You've been married for 25 years. You've booked a special meal somewhere, and I send Tim instead of me because I'm busy that evening. It's like it absolutely is defeating the purpose of what you're trying to do. And the point here is that you're trying to move yourself closer to those people that you want to have some sort of relationship with. So,
and Robert, to answer your question, yes, there is a if you got the professional edition of LinkedIn and you're not being spammy, which means that people don't there's ways that so if someone connects to you and you say ignore, and then you say I don't know this person, that's a signal to LinkedIn that you're being spammy. So what they do is that if people are doing that, they restrict the number of connection requests. So if you're not being spammy, you can send 200 connection requests a week, and we teach people how to do it in an hour.
Yeah, and this is like going to the gym. If I want to get fit, I cannot send Tim to the gym in my place. I have to do the work myself. If I want to build a network, I have to use my words to connect to the people that I want to influence. And I need to work out what I need to do is to work out the most efficient way of doing this. Because with 1.2 billion people on LinkedIn, I could spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on LinkedIn and achieve nothing. So I need to do it in such a way where I'm maximizing the resources of my time that I have to get the biggest possible impact. And the point here is that rule number one, I need to make myself look as good as I possibly can. So I need to have a really interesting shop window. Rule number two, I need to connect to as many of the people that I would like to influence as I possibly can. The reason I need to do that is that you may not buy today, but you may buy at some point. And the only way I will know that you won't buy today is by connecting to you and seeing whether or not I can develop a conversation and influence you to buy now. Now, the beauty of this is that if I did this on a cold call and I said, here's what I do, are you ready to buy this today? And you said no, you'll never, ever take a cold call from me again. If I connect to you and I try to influence you by sharing really valuable, really interesting, really helpful, really insightful, really funny, really educational, really broad-ranging content with you, I'm hoping that eventually you will start to consume that content. And today I'm going to connect I'm going to send 200 connection requests. Half of them will say yes, let's say. So 100 people today, this week, will now be consuming that piece of content. And maybe none of them will send me a message. But next week, there'll be this week's 100 plus next week's 100, 200, and the week after 300, and the month after 500, and the month after that 1,000, and the month after that 5,000. And eventually, I have so enriched my network with the people that I'm looking to have a conversation with. Anybody that engages with my content is likely to be somebody that I want to have a conversation with, and I then have a reason to have a conversation. But it all starts with getting that network in the right place, because if I'm not connected to you and I'm trying to sell you something or to have a meeting with you, the chances of you even knowing who I am is infinitesimally small, isn't it?
So Andrew Slessor says, is that the main properly? People imagine the results should come instantly. They don't see the hard miles.
The results can come instantly. It was Gary Player, wasn't it, that said the harder I practice, the luckier I get. If you are going to, and again, I'm not rubbishing cold callers, but if you were to cold call 100 people, maybe the first person that answers the phone and has a conversation with you will buy. Maybe the 100th will answer the phone and buy. But here, what you're doing is you're not chasing people away in that process. So it could be that I luck out and the first person that I connect to says, I looked at your profile, really interesting. I think we need to have a conversation. It happens. It does happen. But that's luck. And we don't sell luck. We sell surety. And what I know is that if you connect to 100 people, and then you connect to another 100 and another 100 and another 100 and another, and then you've got 10,000 people in your network, all of whom are ideal customers for your product. We know, because 95% are not in market, 5% are in market. That means 50 of those people, if you've got 500 of those people are in market for your product at this very moment. I mean, this is like panning for gold.
One of the things that Andrew said about the results happening instantly. One of the things that we quite often get pushback on is that somehow or other this takes a long time. And what I would say is that it takes no longer than actually cold calling, except it gives you 10x the results. And that's really the argument, is that what result do you want? I mean, a number of times we've been into customers and we said, we went in the afternoon and said to the salespeople, so what have you been doing this morning? And say, oh, we've been cold calling. And say, so what did you get? Well, nothing. Okay. You have to balance, what do you want? What do you want? It's kind of like, do you want to be successful or not? Because that's kind of and I know there's a lot of people that actually don't want to be successful. They're more than happy to carry on doing what they did 40 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to somebody earlier this week. So I was doing like an early coaching session with them, and I said, the problem, and I recount somebody that we trained a little while ago. The problem for salespeople is that it's a grim life. You spend all your time sending emails and getting blocked. You spend all your time phoning people and being told to go away. And that, certainly for this young man, it had got to the point where he was questioning, A, is sales the career for me? And B, am I a good person because nobody wants to talk to me? So against that backdrop, asking people to do more of the stuff, which is basically an abusive behavior towards them, is incredibly damaging for self-esteem and mental health. Then this person, they started to do exactly what we had coached them to do, and they were getting 20 calls a week with people that wanted to have a conversation with them. So all of a sudden they're loving their job. They're getting results, but they're loving their job. They're feeling good about themselves because they're having conversations with people that wanted to have a conversation with them, rather than them constantly trying to jam their foot in the door to keep the door open. And I think that even discounting the success factor, the fact is that people love going to work when they're doing this because they meet interesting people. So, like the people in the comments, many of you I've never met face to face. All of you, when I do meet you face to face, I'll probably give you a hug because I feel that I know you all. Now, the beauty of this is that we can do this at scale. It's possible for us to develop hundreds or even thousands of close relationships with people through these digital interactions. Sorry, Tim.
So just in terms of Andrew's comment, it was a typo. It said, "Is that the main problem? People imagine that results should come instantaneously." Yes, I think that maybe, but I also think that people are actually that they don't know what to do. When we started in sales and marketing, we were told we had to basically cold call, and then what we were told is that we had to send spam emails. And then, therefore, what we expect is that when we come to social media, we do those things. We send connect and pitches, and I don't know where people are taught how to talk that, but they seem to do it. And then what happens is that they don't get any results at all. So they expect instantaneous results by connecting and pitching, and of course, it's the wrong thing to do.
I don't think that they taught. I think what happens is they just assume. It's like LinkedIn is a business network, therefore I can't talk about my personal life, which is obviously nonsense. But people somehow think, well, that's just the way things are. And that's a really interesting point, isn't it? Around, this is not Facebook. And the number of times that people adopt this is not Facebook attitude. Um, and what I find so ironic about that is that the very people that say this is not Facebook, if you look at their activity on LinkedIn and see that the majority of interactions that they've given have been wish Tim a happy birthday. And so they've left a comment saying happy birthday, Tim, or Tim's got a new job and they put a like on that, both of which are personal things rather than business things. So, it's like these people, even in spite of their belief system around this, they still can't help but be drawn into that stuff. And the reason is because that's the stuff that matters. I imagine the post, clearly social media was not around when I was in this situation, but I imagine that if my wife had a child, and here I'm at the hospital with a baby, that get more likes than anything else I would ever post, because it's something that matters and something that everybody can relate to. And I think that we just need to relax and stop putting ourselves in some sort of prison around this. We need to recognize that this is a platform for meeting an almost infinite number of people. Some of those people will like you, some of them won't. Some of them will hate you, some of them will love you. And with 1.2 billion people on LinkedIn, actually, you only need to focus on the ones that love you. The rest of them, actually, they don't want to work with you. Well, that's okay. And I think, what's really interesting is that, even with the very basic version of LinkedIn, you can pretty much search for everybody on the platform. There are some limitations. The lower down the scales you go in terms of your license, but you can pretty much search for anybody on the platform. And what people do is they still think that there's a scarcity of ideal customers. So they end up, if you say, what does your ideal customer look like? And I remember I was talking to somebody that was setting up like a skincare import brand, and this was like a side hustle for them. And I said, so who are you selling to? And they said, women. And also we've got some products for men as well. So basically, you're targeting anybody who isn't dead is what you're basically doing. That's not very selective. And if you think that you have to throw the net wide in terms of the people that you're targeting, you need to consider that if you publish your phone number on LinkedIn and everybody on LinkedIn decides they want to work with you, so they all phone you up, you're going to drown in the number of conversations that you need to have. Much better to say, actually, what I'm looking for is bald, middle-aged, white men who live around London, blah, 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 which gets you the very, very thin sliver of people. And then you can hyper target your offer to those people. Because we all know, you go onto Facebook as a great example of this, of advertising. It says, are you alive? If so, click here. We've got the product for you. And it just completely is wallpaper and you don't notice it. But if it says, for me, are you a slightly fat, bald, old man living in East Anglia? And I go, well, that's me. I need to see what that is. And I click it. I can't help myself.
So I've got a question for you, Adam.
Yes.
We've got a sales team.
Yep.
And we're not making a number.
Yep.
And I need to invest in some training and coaching.
Yep.
Surely what I need to do is invest in something like MedPick, however you spell it.
Yep.
And actually teach them how to qualify the leads that we've got to enable us to make sure that we de-risk the pipeline. Isn't that what I should be doing?
No.
Why not?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Tim. So it is my belief that if you target your customers properly, the people that you want to deal with, then it's not about qualifying in or out. It's about qualifying now or later. We know 95% are not in market at the moment. But if they're an attractive enough company or target to sell to today, they'll be an equally attractive company to sell to in 3 months or 9 months' time. So this is not about qualifying in or out. This is about qualifying now or later. So any kind of sales process that helps people to sell is, of course, going to make a difference. But I was talking to a very large tech vendor a little while ago, and I probably have recounted this story on the digital download. And I asked the sales leader, "Can your sales team sell?" And they said, "Yeah, they're absolutely brilliant." And I said, "So why have you got no pipeline?" And it was like watching the penny drop in slow motion. So the problem isn't that these people can't sell. You don't need to teach them to sell. You need to give them somebody to sell to. That's the problem. The reason that they're not making their number is not because they can't close. It's because they haven't got anybody to close, because nobody will take a call with them. And I think that the point is that sales teams, whether you're in a big company or a little company, sales teams have to think about how they can stimulate conversations rather than obsessing about qualifying in or out and what sales tech they're going to use and how they're going to pitch and how they're going to story tell. Because the reality is, Tim, if you are prospecting and you get one meeting a month, which actually is not bad for a salesperson if you're selling a very high tech, high value strategic purchase, get one pitch per month and none of the pitches close, you don't know why. It could be that they weren't a good fit. It could be that they're not.
Oh, it's the messaging.
Yeah, it could be that it's the messaging. It could be that it's the branding. It could be that you're not very good at pitching. It could be that your presentation skills.
Could be that you've got a blue logo.
Yeah, it could be any one of 1,000 things. You don't know. If, however, you get 20 meetings a week and none of those meetings progress to a next action or a second meeting, then we can be reasonably confident that what you're doing in the meeting isn't working. Now, that doesn't mean that you're no good at meetings. It doesn't mean that you're no good at pitching. But what it means is that what you're saying or what you're doing isn't resonating with the client or isn't moving the client or the prospect to where you need them to be. So one of the great things about going down this road and getting lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of meetings is that you get to refine how good you are at running meetings. You get to trial lots of different ideas. So I can say, "Hello, mate, really great." Or I can say, "Tim, it's delightful to meet you," or whatever. I can work out what words work based on not what I believe is happening, but what actually happens. And it also means that during that meeting, I can work out that actually you're not a good fit. So I'm going to draw the meeting to a close. Tim, it's been great talking to you. Unfortunately, I have a call in another 5 minutes. So let's touch base again in 6 months. I can draw it to a close in a friendly way to hopefully mean that maybe you will circle back in 6 months or a year and buy from me. But it means that I don't have to obsess about it. If you are the only meeting I've got this month, I'm going to try to close you, whether you're a good fit or not. So it's this idea that you need to focus where the biggest problem is. And the biggest problem is that the bit in between an MQL and an SQL is like this abyss of nothingness. Marketing produces loads of leads. They're given to sales and sales go, "The leads are no good." So sales can't generate their own leads because they haven't got the skill set to be able to do that in many instances. So there's nothing going in at the start of the sales pipeline, the sales conveyor belt. And I say conveyor belt because it's not actually a funnel. It's a conveyor belt where you move from this point to this point to this point to this point to this point. And that's the bit that needs to be addressed.
So Robert Tell basically said, how can you migrate LinkedIn to WhatsApp conversation? In my view, is you've cracked it. And I know, and Robert, I know a lot of people would basically take people from LinkedIn to WhatsApp, and I think that's a great way of showing that you're moving the relationship forward. Generally, what I would do is that I would take people from LinkedIn to a call. And the reason for that is I hate WhatsApp, because if you have connected me on WhatsApp and I don't engage, because I expect basically someone to translate to me. And what I would prefer to do, maybe I have little patience and is that I basically want to get on call and I want to see the whites of the person's eyes and I want to have a discussion and have a conversation. But yes, I mean, you can do it, Robert. It's up to you. It's down. I think it's a bit like I'm not going to buy or sell anything at the bottom of your connection request. At the end of the day, it's down to you and what you want to do.
I think it is, though, putting an extra step in the process. So, you know, the best thing to do is a face-to-face in-person meeting. The second best thing to do is to have a video call with somebody. The third best thing to do is to have a telephone call with somebody. The next best thing to do is to have a message box exchange with somebody. And you say WhatsApp, Rob, and I get that, but the reason you're saying that is because you like WhatsApp. I don't like WhatsApp. You don't like WhatsApp. Rather than WhatsApp, I live in LinkedIn, as you do, Tim. So if you were to message me on LinkedIn, you would get a much faster response. If you were to text me, you would get a much faster response. If you were to Facebook Messenger me, you would get a much faster response. If you were to WhatsApp me, you would get a response, but it would take a lot longer because it's not my primary channel. And I think that's the key thing. You know, we've got all of these different messaging platforms available to us, and we should be looking for the one that the customer wants to inhabit. And if you've connected to them on LinkedIn and you've had an engagement with them on LinkedIn because they've liked or commented on a post of yours, you're already in LinkedIn. To ask them to go somewhere else is another potential failure point. If you're going to ask them to go somewhere, ask them to go for a coffee or a video call with you, which must be a better option, I would say.
So we're at time, Adam. So last week we did profiles. This week we've done network. Next week we're going to do content. Can't
wait. So thank you all very much indeed for joining us. We've had
thanks for all the comments.
Great comments. Tim, as always, I love getting on these things and riffing with you because it's a chance for us both to get up on our soapboxes and have a rant, isn't it? But I hope everyone in the audience did find that there was some value in this. As you can tell, we are passionate about this stuff. And we're passionate about this stuff because when people do this, they see the success that they want to see. And a frustration for us is often that we see really great people that we really care about that are not able to go to market because they're hampered by old thinking where their customers or prospects have moved somewhere and they haven't moved with them and they haven't got a vehicle to address those people anymore. So if you would like to join us on a future episode of the Digital Download, please be a guest, scan the QR code. Whatever. Scan the QR code and come on as a guest. It would be lovely to chat to you if you have something interesting to talk about or share. So until then, and until next week, thank you all very much indeed for joining us. I hope you found this valuable, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.